Hello and welcome to episode 4 of SHHH, the podcast where I interview men because I want men to talk. Today I'm joined by Dan Jackson. He's a guy that I actually went to school with, but more importantly for me is he actually reached out to me off the back of episode 2 with Harry Perks, who was actually a really good friend. They were really good friends at school, but Harry's podcast gave him the courage to reach out to me and say, I want to have a chat as well, which for me, literally 2 episodes in, someone's already said, that's what I want to do, then it's already done more than I ever expected. So, Dan, thanks very much for coming on. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for asking. It's a bit muggy outside, so trying to enjoy the weather indoors, I guess, because it's still a little bit humid for me. But so apologies if I sweat a little bit. But no, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I am really good. And like I said, we were actually classmates and friends at school, but we've as with a lot of men, I think we sort of drifted apart over the time frame, and we've not kept super in touch, but we see each other occasionally on nights out, and people move on, people go on and do life and do those sort of things. So I guess the first point for me to start with is, what made you send that message? That was probably the biggest question for me.
Yeah, it's a good question, to be honest, because I think, I have I've recently, in the last 5-6 years, I've recently become a father of 1 and now 2 recently, and I suffered really badly from mental health, not just from a male's point of view, but a general point of view. So I saw that you obviously doing your podcast, and I saw the one with Matt, and I thought, and then I saw Harry's, and I thought, oh my god, this is perfect, because knowing someone, obviously I know you obviously, but knowing someone else like Harry as well, taking that leap of faith and just talking about it's a no-brainer for me. It really is. I think, with me personally, I suffered quite a bit in the last 6 years of my mental health, and even now my mental health is affected now in what I do. So I thought, what better opportunity to actually do it with someone I actually am comfortable speaking to about it. Obviously we were friends back in the day and stuff, and obviously, like you said earlier, time and just takes people apart, but it never brings them fully apart, so it brings them back together pretty well. And I just thought, if I can do it, why can't anybody else? So
perfect. Yeah, I really hope that the more people I speak to and the more people that we do this with, hopefully opens up. Everyone's going to have different journeys with mental health, and maybe, I think, like you said, you watched the first one with Matt. You didn't know who Matt was, so that was a little bit of a. But then Harry, that sort of triggered something. But maybe another father's watching this now and goes, you mentioned something, and that might trigger something in them as well. So it's all about just exploring as many journeys as possible and having those conversations. So I guess for me is, let's sort of talk about pre-fatherhood and sort of like where your life was at, what you were looking, where you were at, what you were doing, and we'll just sort of pick the story.
So I became a father to my first at the age of 25. To cut a long story short, it wasn't the experience I wanted it to be a first-time father. It came very abruptly to me. I'm happy to talk about it now because we're 6 years in the future, and I'm in a really good position. And pre 25, I'd come straight out of school, didn't go to any education, went straight into work, went into the working environment, started getting into the working world, understanding it better, going from, a few jobs, but then I settled at one job, which wasn't the best, and then went on to other jobs as well. And I got to about 20, 21. Thought, right, I'm out of here. I'm too young yet. I don't want any of this kind of pressure as a human from my parents, from saying what career, what were you doing, what you're going down. I think what a lot of millennials do tend to go through, at our generation, especially with obviously having the boomers and everything like that. The parents have that kind of expectation of how you're going to succeed in life, not where you're going, but how you're going to get there, and much money you're going to get, and how you're going to provide for your future and stuff. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I wanted to just leave. So I ended up moving out of my parents about 2021 and lived with an ex-girlfriend at the time for a few years. And that ended. And then I was on my own, had a house sharing crew. And then I had a good friend who I'm still really good friends with to this day, like a brother to me. And he thought, let's get a house together. We got a home. Which probably the best 3 years of my life. And I met someone in that time as well who I was working with in the job that I was in. And complications took effect, and I ended up finding out I was a father about 3 or 4 months in of the baby being born. So it was quite it was quite a big shock, because I was in a position where I was like, oh my God, I'm going far with it. Got my own place now with, I'm comfortable where what I'm doing, like a bachelor kind of esque thing. And I was enjoying what I was doing and where I was going with things. And then it hit me, like literally like an emotional ton of bricks. It's funny to laugh back at it now, because obviously I told my mum on her birthday at a barbecue that I was going to be a father, but baby was already here. So it was quite a great response, actually, because my mum, she was like, well, at least you're not 16. And then that was probably the best comment I've ever been given about news about having a child for a first time dad. So that happened. I became a father, and then the obviously, like I'm talking about mental health wise, that's when it started to kick in. So no, please go on, say something.
Yeah,
sure,
I
yeah, go,
far,
yeah, sure. Jumping the gun.
without touching on some key points there, which I think probably quite important for a lot of people. So I just want to re-emphasize this point. So obviously leaving school, A levels, so sort of then going after that sort of thing. What do you think that like, you obviously talk about like your mum and you're the parents in that situation, sort of talking about what's the career, what you're going to do, how you're going to make money, do you think that that's accelerated when you leave school? Because obviously with Harry, he left and joined the Navy, and that was like you're a man now. Like, is that something that you feel that obviously you're a father now, and your children are going to sort of reach that age as well? Is that something that you're potentially going to look at in a different light now, or what do you see about that time period? Because all the way up to 25, I didn't leave uni till 24. So like for me, education has been I've been in work for 6 years. So like it's 20% of my life. It's tiny. But if I'd left at 18, it's double that already. So I was able to grow through uni. Like I'm a completely different man than I was when I left school. I was very shy. I wasn't very outgoing. Like I had friends, but I wasn't like popular or anything like that. So for me, that transition period where I was allowed to uni essentially, which was allowed me to fail and learn and make new friends and experience different elements of life without having that you're a man now type thing. And then going into that, but still having that same experience of like, well, you better know what's going on now. You've left uni. So how do you think you would look at that differently, and what is your opinion on that as a phase?
Yeah, I mean, my parents split up when I was very young. So my mum and my stepdad are they're my parents. So if I refer to my parents as my mum and stepdad, my dad lives in a different country and has done since 2011. But when I left school, I went to college, but I also went to work at the same time. So I worked alongside I had a job earning money whilst also trying to get an education in college. And don't get me wrong, I got it, but the very scrap basics of it. And, you know, that my parents were very, you know, very persistent. They were very, you know, hitting. What you doing next? Where you going next? How are you doing things next? What you doing next? What's your career? And I think that drives children more away. And I think especially with millennials as well, I think they they create an expectation that you want to perceive when you're older. But I don't think that's the case. I think that people like our age should accept and embrace who they are as an individual and make their own path, not expect what their parents expect from them. I mean, some do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against the fact that if someone wants to go with their parents' wishes, they're more than welcome to. I'm not prejudiced against that. I just think that my opinion on it is that it should be you should make your own path rather than follow a path. You're a shepherd, not a sheep. And my opinion going into obviously being a father myself is, you know, I will support what my children want to make in their lives, regardless of what decision it is. You know, I think if my children came up to me in 16 years' time and was like, Dad, I don't want to go to school anymore. I want to go into work. I want to get an apprenticeship. I want to do this. I want to do that. Obviously, it might change by the time we get to that age anyway. And I'll say to them, I'll be the typical parent and be like, is this really what you want to do? And if they would say, yeah, and I'll say, well, try it then. You don't ask, you don't get. And I think that you kind of have to learn from some mistakes yourself before you can actually realize what path you actually want to take and stuff. And I've done it. I mean, who hasn't? And I strongly believe that I will support. I think it's more support. It's the safety net of being a parent that I would want with my kids going into the future. And I think you know, I won't be the same parent as what my parents were to me, but I will use the positive comments and positivity from what they gave me rather than the negativity, and try and utilize that in my own life, kind of thing. So
yeah, I think for me, like I say, I've technically only been working full time. Obviously, worked at uni and stuff and part time jobs, but is the traditional career, as you sort of touched on, that boomer generation, it just doesn't exist anymore. You don't go and work for a company, do 40 years, get a gold watch, and have a nice pension. It's just not a thing anymore. And you can try and test and do lots of other things. I think I was in a really fortunate position when I was about 17, so quite a pivotal point in a school life. My mum became a career changer as well, so she actually went back to uni. So I think that opened her eyes as well, into the sense that you don't always have to have it together. Like, for me, I went to university and I did a degree, but I didn't do it in a job. There wasn't a job at the end of it. I think I mentioned this with Connor as well. It's sort of like there's different levels to where you're at. If you want to be a doctor, obviously go to uni, become a doctor, and sort of go down that route. But outside of those specific roles that are becoming fewer and fewer, I think is probably a fairer way of saying that as well. Like, literally, like teacher, doctor, surgeon, like civil engineer, like they're becoming less and less sort of specific career roles. There's fewer of those, and it's very much a journey. I once had a guy say to me that whatever you decide to do, just do it the best. Just be the best, and whatever that looks like for you. I'm going to do a whole series on this as well, because it's going to be different videos of like what is your best, and like not in sort of reaching full potential. I think that's probably the most important thing. But even now, and even as you grow and as your kids grow, there's still going to be that continual pressure from parents, from schools, from systems that are put in place that by 18, by 21, you're meant to be a man, a woman, you're meant to be figured out. Like, you're meant to be going to work and on your chosen career, but it's just not the case. So, obviously, moving forward from that, and sort of starting to build your career path in that sense, and testing and trying different new things, and going on that journey. Obviously, a big part of that is women and relationships, and having a good time. And you mentioned that relationship fell apart and dissipated, and you found out that you were a dad after the fact. You weren't given the 9 months of it's coming space. How do you think that affected you? Because that's literally a bombshell followed by a bombshell. That I'm pregnant is also
it's weird because I do get asked this question a lot. Like how do you get by it? How did you do it? How did you? Oh, you got like when you're with your friends, like a male, that like, oh, you got big balls. You've done well. You do all right there. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It hit me a lot more than I anticipated. I think it's that straight up denial. It's complete denial. And I think it only took me till my eldest was about 2 or 3, where I was thinking, yeah, actually, this is long term. This is forever kind of thing. And to this day, like I still don't think that I'm a father. Not on the negative side, but the fact that it's like, oh my God, there's 2 children who are my blood out there. And but going back to actually finding out, it was one of the most bittersweet feelings I've ever experienced in my life. It was, oh my God, my life's over. I'm a dad. No one's going to take me seriously, especially at my age. Actually, you know what? Blessing in disguise, because I've got a meaning to actually love something in my life as much as I would do with anything, especially children. And that was, it's hard to not talk about, but it's hard to explain, because I think that not many people have gone through the same position that I've gone through. They've gone through the 9 months. I mean, I've done it now. I've had it now with my current partner, but that's a different story. I've not experienced it. I haven't gone through it. And people go, how do you get through it? How do you do that? And I'm like, I just got on with it. And unfortunately, it didn't go in my favour. And I got, I suffered from, I'd like to say postnatal depression, but I some kind of mechanism inside me still saying, nah, you didn't. But I think, let's put it black and white. I think you did. And that was a very difficult period. And
what was your feelings towards the mother? Like, how did you? Was there an anger?
No, not disappointment. No, not at all. I mean, I think that how I felt at the time was a lot of remorse and a lot of hatred. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it's happened now. It's not going to change what's happened. You can't go back and change it. That's what it is. So I think that I had to kind of take it on the chin a little bit. I think if I was a lot younger, then it would be a completely different scenario. But I think my emotion towards the mother of my first, isn't hatred. It's joy, because they are raising, or co-raising my child, which I want them to succeed more than what I could do. And even now, to this day, like me and mother of my eldest are really good friends, very amicable. We do a lot of things together as parents to co-parent my eldest, and she's even good friends with my partner now. So it's all full circle in that sense. But back then, I think I got a bit more selfish than I did. Then I think my emotion towards myself and how I'm going to live my own life now this has happened overcame how I felt towards them, if that makes sense. I kind of,
but that freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, the mother of my eldest was really supportive to me at the very start anyway. She was very supportive in what I could do. It was very flexible what I could do and how I could do things. she was there if I needed it, kind of thing. So that kind of balanced the emotional scale a little bit. And yeah, but I think my emotion towards myself and how I'm going to get through this was overcome by my hatred towards the mother. And yeah, now it's not even non-existent. So
yeah, well, I'm glad that it's
Mm.
it sounds like the best.
Yeah, it's the best
situation
thing
it can
about
be
a bad
for-
situation. That's what it came.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
everyone involved. But in that core time, I can't even imagine like what that would have been like, because it just feels like, and it's like, oh, like, because it's very hard to digest just one of those things, but then
Yeah.
and I don't. This is very a dramatic version of this, but
Yeah. And it's not
thing.
just also myself. Obviously, I was selfish when it happened, but once you've come to terms with what's going on, you have that knock-on effect then of like, who else is involved? You've got your friends, your family, your loved ones, your close ones. They all become a key in this because they are now involved in that child's life as well. And obviously, breaking the news to them was a blessing in disguise again. And it's that knock-on effect for them now. So then they're all affected, and how's it going to affect their lives? And then you start thinking about how it's going to affect them as well. And you know what? I couldn't fault my family because they were really supportive in what they did. And I'm very stubborn when it comes to certain things. So I'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that. For example, oh, I'm really poorly, I have to go to the GP. Nah, I'll be all right. I'll take a few cold and flu, and it'll be all right. So having that opportunity to tell them that, and then it kind of brought me closer to my family as well. I think, me and my mum, we're very close but very similar in terms of how we are. So it kind of, I go periods of a time when I wouldn't speak to my mum for months because I'd be out doing my own thing. So you'd be checking on me. Now I speak to her every week. No, not just for the kids' sake, but for my sake as well. So I think it's been one of the best scenarios from the worst little problem. So yeah.
So let's sort of go into that a little bit. That I guess that's the turning point, right? Is that you found that out. You obviously had that initial panic, that initial worry. We'll tell everyone I'm a dad. We'll tell everyone I'm a dad. When did that start? Like you say, you sort of giving it a name of postnatal depression, but you sort of fighting that a bit as well. But how did that start to unravel, and what did that do for you from that point of view?
I mean, when I was in the job that I was working at the time, I had all this had happened. I had not been in the job that long, and the people who were there for me at the time were supportive then as well, because they were either mothers themselves and things like that. And I was literally, because where I used to work was in Holmes Chapel in Cheshire, near Congleton, and it used to be like a 4-minute train drive to Sandbach, so you just drop on kind of thing, so dead easy. And I used to leave and go to the train station bawling with tears because I'd be thinking, well, I've got to go home now and I can't do the things I want to do because I'm a dad. I can't do what I want to do because I have to take the consideration of others into effect now. And I used to just cry. And, one of my colleagues who I worked with at the time, they pulled me inside and said, listen, you need help. Don't sugarcoat it. Just ask them for help. And at the time, I then called some advice, basically. And they told me, you need help. Go and see a GP, and they'll discuss their options. And that's when I did that. And that's when I started taking medication for it for a period of about 8 to 12 weeks, roughly. I can't remember exact amount of time, but I did that, and I got to a stage where like I said, I was starting to process things a lot better, starting taking another perspective, and found out that it was quite, not easy, but it was a lot more comfortable and a lot more fitting than what I thought it'd be. And I decided to just jump off them, just come straight clean, straight off the medication, because I wasn't feeling human with myself because of it, and I wanted to feel human because there was a child involved. And that's when I kind of just like, it's like sometimes like there's some stages during probably about 9 months to 2 years old, there was like light switches clicking in my head of stages thinking, oh, I actually overcome this. Oh, I've actually done that correctly. Oh, I've done that right. I feel great. I do this, that. And it was a slow process, but I got through it. And that's how I started to unravel my emotion towards it. And I didn't speak to any of my friends about it. Not a single word. I think I spoke to my best friend probably twice, probably in a drunken conversation, because alcohol speaks many truths sometimes, unfortunately, and in circumstances where you feel that way about how you feel with yourself, it comes out a lot more than what you anticipated. And I think that's something I couldn't relate to more in my life, because I think talking about it more made things a lot better. Talking was just the best thing, and it wasn't even like to family, it was to friends, and sometimes even people you don't even know and hardly speak to, and it felt better. It felt liberating to tell them about it.
Yeah, it's I think it's interesting that the GP's response to that, and is unfortunately the case for a lot of people, is take this. That'll essentially sort your hormones out. That'll put you back in on right. But that's putting a plaster on a quite serious problem. Right? It's you then become potentially dependent on the medication. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying it's wrong to give that, but I think there needs to be that. There's the quick fix, but let's work on a big solution as well. So it's good that you managed to start to have those conversations with people. Unfortunately, not everyone is either A, comfortable, or B, able to have those conversations. Or I know people that have been waiting for a therapist on the NHS for, waiting list in the NHS, but yeah, it's sort of everything with them. But that's the sort of thing that you need to do. And Matt mentioned that when he had therapy, he said that it's crazy what you can tell a stranger, and I like that a lot, because I said to him that I was really nervous before having that conversation with him, because it was like, oh, we're going to have a conversation. We've been friends for 6 years. All we normally do is just take the piss out of each other, so this is going to be fun. So yeah, we it was that I felt that was quite good, and I'm glad that you were able to talk through to people and sort of have those conversations. But just keep going through your journey and how it sort of continues from that point. Really, I think it's good to hear it in chronological order. I think when I spoke to Connor, he was like, "Oh, it was great," and then all of a sudden he was back at the beginning, and we thought of other things.
So from the point of, we'll probably go from when Holly was about 18 months. Holly is my oldest daughter, by the way. So if I name drop it a few times, that's why. When my first was about 18 months, I met my partner, who I'm with now. It was the weirdest thing, because I was seeing a lot of, it sounds really horrible, but seeing a lot of women and going on dates a lot, and these dating apps, trying to find some kind of comfortability with a female companion, trying to break that bubble of being a typical single parent, which I have nothing wrong with. I know a few people now who are single parents, and they're having a better life because they've come out of something which wasn't right for them. So, but you know, I felt like I needed something in my life to complete this cycle of, I'm now a single father, I've got a child, you know, I should start looking at getting a partner or getting a home. And, you know, at first I was a bit taken back because I think, you know, no, I shouldn't fall into that category of typical wife, kids, home, good job, good car, good life, good money. But I felt when I hit about 26, 27, I thought, you know what, I would like more children in the future, and I kind of want to experience that with the right person. So I met my current partner now, and we started talking on my actual birthday, and it kind of one thing led to another, and we ended up getting together, and I decided that I'm going to move out. I'm gonna get a house because, you know, my partner now, she wanted to do that also. So we were like, let's just do it. We have a good opportunity. I'm in a good position right now because, you know, Holly's getting older and getting better. I'm feeling better in myself. Let's do this kind of thing. And that's when we started getting a home. The house I'm in now, and it was just it was getting into a great rhythm of, my life is coming together, things are looking good, I've got a good life, good family, good, you know, good everything coming together as a whole. So that full circle moment again, it was brilliant. And then we obviously talked about kids, and we decided that we wanted to have another child, so we did, and here we are now, kind of thing. And it was a perfect opportunity because we wanted to. This is where kind of that boomer like generation comes into effect for the positive side, because it was nice to, you know, set up, get a family ready, get married, and, you know, because you're in that position where you feel comfortable to do so. And we did, and we'd always said we'd do children before marriage because we wanted to make sure that we were comfortable in what we were doing, we could tackle this adventure together, and just not complicate things, to take it nice and easy and not stress ourselves out and put too much pressure, because that also will affect our mental well-being as well, for both parties. And then so we got the house, we got everything. I'm in a decent job where I work for the police, and and then we had a child. Which is now 10 weeks old. So
nice, lovely, good. Well, not end, but good. Good start. I guess it's like it sort of is that thing. A few things that really want to touch on there is obviously it sounded really healthy. Like were they like, I talked to Matt about this because he sort of is there probably a similar stage to where you're at now with his partner. They're sort of discussing what their next stage of life looks like together, like whether are they going to buy, are they going to have kids, like, and sort of go down that route and sort of plan that out. Were they difficult conversations to have? How did they, or has it just been very easy with this partner?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the easiest. It's going to sound really horrible, and there's no disrespect to my partner at all, but one of the easiest relationships I've ever had. Not because of what was going on at the time. It's because of our end game. Our end game was very similar. You know, we wanted to have our own home. We wanted to have our own children and to be married and just be actually a family. So normality in some retrospects. And we discussed it very early on in the relationship of what we wanted and what we didn't want. Because my partner's a couple of years older than me. So we were discussing children and what we wanted to take our steps and stuff. And we took it really, really nice and slow at the very beginning, and then we accelerated quite fast. Not because of the position we were in, it's because we wanted to. We wanted to accelerate quite quickly. And we did, and we were together about a year before we actually moved into each other's houses. I know a lot of relationships have 3, 4, maybe 6 years where they're together and then they get their own place. But I think right place, right time came to effect a lot, and it became a great experience for me. Not just learning to get on that property, like learning actual adult things in life, because I've gone from prior 25 of having this lavish lifestyle to be hit with a ton of bricks emotionally, to be a father, and then between 25 and 30, the last 5 years, I've gone from single dad to a second child, house, and getting married in the next few years. So in the space of that 5-year period from 20 to 25 was a massive contrastal difference compared to the 25 to 30. And, I have no regrets at all. And I think, the position that I'm in now, I'm really, really good. And, having, we'll probably touch on a little bit is, I've had a second child now, and that mental health is coming back into play. Quite heavily, in fact, because I know the triggers and the cues now. So obviously we'll discuss that in a bit. But she wanted the same thing, I wanted the same thing. And that's where we are now. And, we probably want to tear each other's hair out at the moment. But, I mean, I think that's just typical family life, I guess. What I've always wanted.
Yeah. You get what you ask for,
exactly.
I guess, in that sense. So, it's funny that me and my partner, we've been together 3 years now. And I think we moved in... We're a COVID relationship in that sense, that she moved. I went and stayed with her at the beginning of the first lockdown, and then her place ran out, and she moved in with me and my housemate, and his partner was there as well during COVID, and then they went and got their own place, and she stayed. When we left London, it was also coming out of the COVID bushes. We made a decision that we weren't going to live together anymore, and that for me was, me coming back up here was probably my lowest. I probably went a bit further from it, but that was probably the amalgamation that got me that was the start of my worst, and it probably fluctuated from there. So that for me was like a real dagger in the heart, because I sort of had that, but we live together. Like, we've made that decision. How do I tell someone that she's living on her own? And Georgina lived with herself for close to 9 months. Obviously, I visited. We dated. We did what any youthful relationship would do in that sense. We weren't broken up. We were still very much in a relationship. And then the sort of last 3 months, I've sort of come back, and I've essentially moved back in, and we've continued to live together. But it's never wrong to live with someone, but it's also never. This is something that I've learned from it, and it's something that I'm really grateful for. Is that if it's right, it's right, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. But it doesn't. If you want to make a relationship work, and you want to stick with someone through thick and thin, then sometimes it means that you've got to take a step back and slow things down. Like at 30, I went and lived with my mum for 9 months, because I'm not saying that we had 2 separate places and it was all bougie and cushy. Like that was a real big step down for me. It's like, so technically a man in his 30s living with his mum, but it was actually the greatest, almost like a great reset. It was really good. It sort of gave us our space, because COVID was so intense that and obviously other factors and things sort of came into play, but that being able to have that step away and then come back to it is what made it a healthier relationship. And when you said it was easy, looking back on it, for me it was a hard conversation, but it was also easy, because I knew that I wanted to be with Georgina for as long as she'll keep up with me, I guess. As long as she'll let me stay. No, but it's just having those awkward conversations, and now we have a lot of. I say awkward; they're not awkward. They're conversations that you should have. What you don't want to be is that guy who's sitting in his lounge. He's letting life fly by. He's not having what he wants, and his partner's not having what they want, and it's a very unhappy and an unhealthy relationship. But that's never good. And then if you add into the pot of that kids and things like that, I think you mentioned it yourself. You said you know of single dads and single mothers that have not chosen a partner and have gone that route. It's all about individual viewpoints and that side of things. But to just sort of go semi-circle on that, you obviously mentioned that you've obviously had your second child very early and triggers are starting to come back. But one of my questions prior to all that and prior to your second being born is, was that devil, because you obviously talked about that freedom and that bachelor lifestyle that you were living, is that devil ever sort of reared its ugly head, and like how have you sort of overcome that, if that is the case?
Yeah, it's a good question actually, because weirdly enough, me and my partner, we were discussing this probably during the pregnancy of the 9 months, and also shortly after baby was born. We drive past like pubs and stuff on a Friday afternoon after work, and you'll see these people in the beer gardens having a drink, having a laugh, and we looked at each other and we were like, even if we didn't have a child, we still wouldn't do it. We still wouldn't go out and do it. And I think that's when it kind of hits home, because you just look at your Friday and your Saturday nights and you go, I could go out and spend some money and be really leglessly drunk and suffer for it the day after, or I could stay at home, even without kids, I could stay at home and just save the money, or buy a takeaway, or just have a Saturday night without having repercussions of the following day. And I think that's what it is for me. I think that I don't hardly drink anymore. I drank a lot pre-25, and I think typically early 20s people would and do drink quite excessively. Sometimes some people don't, but I got to about 24, just probably when my Holly was there in my life. I kind of thought I don't want to drink as much anymore, but that was also fighting against myself, because I had that selfish, oh my God, my lifestyle's ending. So I kind of was like, oh, what can I do to go out? What excuses can I find? So I think time is probably the best answer for it. I think, over time I've slowly learned that what my tolerance to alcohol is, what I can actually do on a night out, where can I go, and how can I do things. And, I'd rather just have a greasy takeaway on a Saturday night, watch some silly ITV program, than go out. But then when opportunities arise to have a night out and to go out and do things, you appreciate it and you enjoy it a lot more, because you're building up to it. Me and my partner, we're going out in a couple of weeks for the first time since baby, and we are so excited. It's like we're having another child, but we're that excited because we're going out. We're all jittery, like, oh my God, what we're going to do, what we're going to wear, what we're going to drink. And I think that's what that learning, that turn of the curve and tide for me is appreciating what you've got at home and what you're not doing, rather than going out and doing something and regretting it the next day. Or people spend looking at drinks. You probably see yourself when you go out for a beer to the pub or something. You'll see a pint that costs nearly £5 now, and back when we were 18, 19, it was getting on to just close to £4, and that was expensive for us. So the fact it's hitting nearly £5, you look at a drink and go, I could spend easily £50 to £100 on a night out, and I'll have nothing to show for it the next day. But I think that's just not my maturity though kicking in a little bit. I think that's just me going, is that my age showing? Is that just my personality showing? But I don't know. I mean, I prefer a greasy takeaway and probably one beer than having 15 beers and regretting the next morning. So,
yeah, I think the biggest thing for that is, like you said, that tolerance. Like, what's after that? And usually, if you're going on a night out, you get wasted.
Yeah.
that seems to be the culture that we have in this country. That's whatever. Like, that's the culture. But what is that person on the other side of that limit after that fifth beer? What does that turn you into? And it's not something that you want to bring out again or explore again. I've had similar issues when I didn't really drink when I was in London, but we came back and not maybe it's because actually it's closer to 7 quid a pint in London. Yeah, have you ever ordered 3 drinks and got strapped for 20? Welcome to London. Yeah, it's but when I came back up north, again, it seems a little bit more of the culture as well. Is just we'll have a beer, we'll do that, and I ended up drinking quite a lot, and I sort of almost went back to uni days standard of drinking, which, well, as you said, in your early 20s is a lot. And yeah, I've had regret, remorse. My partner's told me what I've said to her, what I've done. Like, it's just not a relationship that I want to have. Is a battle with alcohol. I didn't drink for about over 3 months, just over 3 months, and I met up with some friends from uni, drank, but I was in a much clearer headspace at that stage. Like, for me, that's probably the biggest relationship with alcohol. But me and my partner.
No, it's fine. I was just about to say, obviously, from my perspective, obviously I know it sounds really not horrible for me to say, but I have responsibilities with children and stuff. From your perspective, do you ever see that demon creeping up on you as well, where you think, I want to do this, I want to do that yourself, or?
Yeah, so I am very selfish because the career path that I have chosen is very insular. So I work for myself. I don't have a stable income in the sense that your traditional, there's your pay packet, that sort of thing. Like, it can be sporadic when I earn money. I've been in positions where I've paid myself like a constant thing, but like my goal is never the salary. It's about what I'm trying to build and what I'm trying to do. And I moved to London with about 3 days notice. I just moved. So I was just like, I'm not doing this here anymore. I'm moving to London. I did that in 3 days. Rang my mate up, got on his sofa, and that was that. And I think us leaving London was primarily driven by me, but we had other reasons to leave as well. And again, that was sort of a 4-5 day turnaround. I was like, rang the landlord, like, you're gonna have to find someone else to live here, and I just left. So I think there's always going to be an element of that of me. Is like, that's how I'm going to do that. And thankfully, I've had those. Again, I think for me, the growth for me is finding a partner that's receptive to it, not necessarily happy with it, because why would you be? It's a bit mental. But we have the conversations often of where I'm at, what I'm planning next, what I'm doing next. So I've brought her into the loop, but again, similar to you, it's not about, like, I don't want to be that bachelor entrepreneur anymore. That when Georgina met me, I was doing all right, actually, like, ironically, but my bedroom was a mattress on the floor, and I hadn't bought a wardrobe, so all my clothes were in 3 suitcases up against my wall. And she came in and she was like, "What is this?" I was like, I'm all right. Like, this is just how I live. She thought like I was like some like absolute lunatic. I was like, or like I was like stuck. Like, it looked like a crack den. I guess it was clean. Like, I'm not. But it was like, if you were to just picture it, just a mattress on the floor, and 3 suitcases, we're closing. Which is not a normal way to live, as I've learned. Got a wardrobe now. But yeah, again, it's that growth. I did some crazy stuff in my youth. I've lived abroad. Me and Georgina are potentially going to move abroad together, so we're having those conversations early rather than it me just being I'm off. Because I'm thinking about them. I'm already having the conversations in my head. That decision might seem abrupt, but I've been thinking about it for 6 months, and then I'm like, well, I've made the decision. Now I'm going. So yeah, there's no similar to you. I think I'm in a much more confident position that I'm able to talk to people. Like for me, it's always been, you're a man. Don't tell people things. Just do. Whereas now, anyone who wants to have a listen can have I'll let them know what's going on in my head. But yeah, that's probably our biggest shift is just conversation, which a lot of relationships lack. I think is the honest truth. I've spoke to a few people already about this, and it seems to be the biggest thing is 2 people want 2 different things. Like you said, you spoke to your partner, and it was like, I'll show you mine, you show me yours, and they match, which is which is the most important thing. If you're 2 people pulling in the same direction, you're going to have your ups and downs. That's life, but you should make a relatively good life moving in similar directions. But it's just about having those conversations. So I guess those conversations have started to come back up for yourself. You've obviously said that triggers have started to come back in now that baby 2's here. Do you want to sort of go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's weird. I know, obviously, watching your previous podcasts and stuff, you see a running trend with a lot of mental health issues. Is conversation and speaking and stuff, and I didn't have that kind of opportunity when I had my first. So obviously, having that second has been. It's the opposite way around. It's the opposite side of that coin. I have a support network. I have people around me. I've got my partner. I've got people, friends, that I can speak to about it this time, because I'm going from the word go of announcing pregnancy all the way to birth. But the thing is, the mental health is still the same. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing. Your anxiety, the way you feel, the way things get you down, your triggers, your cues, they're all the same thing. But they're just the devil in disguise. They take on different forms, but that underlying principle thing is still the exact same. So baby's here, baby's healthy, baby's fine. But just in this last couple of weeks, they do these things, babies, where they have a leap, and they'll change dramatically. Whether it be their feeding, whether it be their sleeping, their routine that you're trying to get into is completely shattered because it's something completely different, because they're changing and developing. So that really does test you. And now I can sense the triggers that are happening, and I can react better, and I can deal with it better, and I can handle it a lot better than most. And I think that's something I think fathers especially need to have in their life, to understand the cues and understand the triggers. And something, I mean, now, luckily, where I work, they have a brilliant counselling program. So I've been very fortunate to have counselling, which is still ongoing. It's still happening. I've counselled every 2 weeks now. And like you said earlier, speaking to a stranger is one of the brilliant things that you can do, and it's a brilliant, weird human reaction to have, where you can speak to a complete stranger either on the phone or in person about your complete life, and then they'll give you a question or a remark that you've never even thought of ever in your life. I mean, and speaking to my partner about it now, and she's just as supportive as the counsellor would be. And I think, that I'm still getting cues. And one of the best lessons that I learning, is control. It's a big word, control. So when you suffer from mental health, especially with either being children or life decisions or anything, it's all a matter of control. What can you control? What can't you control? How do you react and control that emotion? How do you react to a trigger that you know is going to happen, and how can you control it? I think with me personally, with my mental health, I'm one of these people who I do care a bit too much about things, and I will always put a lot of people before myself and try and control their scenario, their situation, before sorting myself out. Like it can be as little as I could make my partner tea before I make my own, or to an extent where I will stay up all night with a child screaming and kicking so they can rest. So I kind of had to get that kind of control and balance it, where I need to take time for myself, but also take time so they can have time to their self. And what can I control in the scenario? A baby's kicking and screaming. You feel absolutely. You feel absolutely. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, control it. Just think about what you can control about it, and how can you do it to make it better. And so, control and distraction. That, I know it sounds like a weird one, distraction, but like the gym is a great one. Going to the gym, like I'm a massive nerd, as you can probably gather behind me, and I love gaming. I love collecting collectibles. I like building Lego. It's like, a 30-year-old Lego. That's. But I enjoy doing that, and that's a nice little. It's a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? A self-indulgent thing I like to do with myself, because that distracts me from whatever else is going on, and it can bring me straight back, and I don't overindulge or overstimulate myself with it, and I can get back to normal life. So, this time around has been a smoother transition, but it's still just as difficult it was. And it only took till I think baby was about 4 months, probably about, no, 4 months, sorry, 4 weeks. And that's when I decided I wanted to get help, because I thought I could control it myself, but I couldn't. And I think it's that click in your head where you go, actually, I can't control it. I'm having the same as last time. Let's see what I can do now. And, like I said, I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to be in my job role now, where they have a great program for counselling. Being in the police, it's quite a very daunting, heavy mental health establishment where they affected a lot, and they have it. They're brilliant. Don't get me wrong, they're brilliant. So, I mean, I'm getting there, but I put on a very plastic smile with a lot of things, and my counsellor did say to me, you can be unhappy. You don't have to be happy. You can be absolutely feeling like absolute shit, and you can tell someone you're not happy about it, but you can still be happy about things. Someone could tell you a joke at work, and you can still laugh about it. You don't have to go, It doesn't have to control your life, and that's one of those triggers in my head where I'm going, that's actually a good thing to think about. So that's where I'm up to, like, present day, and it's just a case of jumping over that hurdle of getting that first 12 months over and done with, because personally, my opinion on kids with 12 months and over, it gets easier. So much easier. Yeah, absolutely. Walk in the park. Absolutely walk in the park.
Yeah. Till they start doing other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Attitude and but it doesn't help that I've got 2 girls, so.
Wow. They're either angels or not.
Hey? No, gender's not of trouble, but yeah.
It's really interesting what you say there. I think the first thing is mental health, thankfully, is becoming more of a conversation, and a lot of businesses are starting to put this into place. Some businesses are doing it really well. Some businesses are not as effective as others, but thankfully a lot of businesses are starting to put things into place, which is really positive to see. I think one of the 2 really good points that you made in there that I really want to emphasise is 4 weeks in, you remembered and things started to trigger. And one of the big things around this is it's all right saying this is what you need to do to be good, and this is what you like. This is how you be happy, and blah blah. This is how you have a great mental health. These are the actions you need to take. But it's that point that is. Matt said it himself. It's like we can crack that, and we're on to a winner. And it's just having people be more aware and more mindful that there was a point. And for you, it probably was baby being born, or just before that, sort of like baby's there again. Like maybe those I don't actually ask this, but those 9 months might have been a bit of a breeze, whereas most men sort of hate those 9 months. But it's finding that point and realizing I'm falling down a cliff here. It doesn't matter where you are on that cliff. But as soon as you've made that decision that you're falling down a cliff, you need to get your my mountaineering knowledge is poor, but you get your hook in and you hold on, and you might slip a bit, but it's just as long as you've made that conscious effort to go, this is going a bit shit, quick. Or it could be, like I said to Matt, like he mentioned of a few people with like addiction and stuff like that. Like it could be low. You could be down, like really, really down. And thankfully for myself, and it sounds with yourself as well, that it's not spiraled too much, and it's allowed you to sort of grab on. But that for me is a really important point. Is always be mindful of it, because it can be quicker than you think. And like you said, those 5 years compared to those 5 years are astronomically different. Like you are considerably happier here than you were there, and that's the same time period. And those 5 years probably felt like an eternity, whereas these 5 years have probably been quite fun, like you said. And another good point that you made is that you don't always have to be happy. Like, and I'll touch on that point first. Like, you're still gonna have shit days. You're still gonna feel like a piece of shit sometime. You're still gonna be mad at the world. Something's gonna fuck you off. Someone might undercut you, someone might honk at you, someone might rain. Like, there's lots of things that just because you have a relationship with mental health doesn't mean that you're like, hey guys, I'm super happy, let's go. Like, you don't turn into that bloke. Like, don't, like, it's not that sort of relationship that you have with it. Hopefully it puts you on the right track to, like you say, have a healthier relationship with negativity. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to have negativity. Like, that's life.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. So there was another point I was going to touch on, but it's that I'm glad that you've noticed it and that you've made that decision yourself, because I think it's a brave decision, and two, it's obviously the right decision. But more importantly, it's the tough decision, because, like you said, it's like new baby, partner, current child. There's a lot of people relying on you in that sense, but you've taken time for yourself and gone, I need a bit of me time, whatever that is, but I also need a solution, because ironically, carrying on and being a man and being brave-faced about it 5 years later could be a very different conversation for you and your family if you hadn't sort of found that point. So yeah, I applaud you for finding that and actually doing something about it. And I hope that someone listens to this and has a look at where they're at and constantly does it. And that was the other thing as well, which you touched on as well, is you don't fix it. Like, your life is significantly better position than it was the first time you were told you were a father. Yet the second time, not the same problems, but the same triggers have arose, and it's like going to the gym or doing something repetitively. It needs constant work. You can't leave it alone. I think that's actually my scariest thing about my journey into this, is that I'm like, I've made a decision that I'm going to look after my mental health, and I'm like, it's actually hard work. Because it's easier to just be like, okay, just let it all fall in. But it's so, I'm not in a perfect position. I'm not in a great position. I'm just doing okay. And I think, and I mean that on a spectrum, like, I think in the scheme of things, I'm doing significantly better than a lot of people. But the reason that I'm having these conversations with people like you, people like Matt, people like Connor, people like Harry, is that we're just normal blokes, in the sense that we've not had mental health, climbed Everest. We've not had issues like tried to commit suicide, taken up parachuting. Like, we've addressed it, and we've continued to move forward with our life in a very modular way. Like, to go back to a boomer thing, like your 2.4 kids and a dog, like, we're not superheroes, but there's a lot of people like us that are having these issues and not addressing them. And I think that's probably one of the things that I wanted to address with this, is that you only ever hear the extremes. So XYZ unfortunately took their own life. XYZ suffered depression, addiction, abuse, is now a world champion Ironman athlete. Like, there is a middle ground with this battle, and it's important that people hear those stories as well, because I'm going to work tomorrow. I don't know if you've got a day off. But
I'm back in first thing. First thing.
Yeah, so like, this isn't meant to be like a Joe Rogan. Woo, like, we're motivated. This is just, it's raw, it's unedited, it's just life for a lot of people. And I'm just trying to talk to as many people. I think I mentioned to Connor in the last one, is I want to speak to people in high pressure jobs, and I also want to speak to people in sort of that lower side. I want to speak to people with addiction who potentially overcome it, or potentially still involved with it. I want to have those conversations with that 90% of the world, basically, rather than what you see when you type in men's mental health or how to help with mental health. It's always like some American dude giving me too much motivation for 4 in the morning.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the key points of why I reached out to you in the first place, because when I saw this, I thought, this is something. This is what's needed. This is what needs to be highlighted. This is what needs to be picked up, because I think that, perfect example is like, during, obviously I know I talk about kids a lot in this one, but when Joe was pregnant, having the baby shower, having this, having this, having this, having this, and this, a lot of it's very focused on the female, on the woman, on the how she deals with things. How are you getting on? How are you feeling? Yes, I know you carry a child, but you kind of get cast aside and you get undermined a little bit about what about the dad? What are they going through? How are they feeling about the baby coming? How do you feel about getting this? How to getting that? And that's probably one of the biggest points I want to raise, because I think that can happen with any scenario, not just children or parents. You could be in a role or a position. You could be a police officer. You could be a lawyer. You could be I don't know, an astronaut. It doesn't matter. The basic underlying issue is, are you okay? What do you need to help to be okay? And like you were saying before about the mountaineering, a great example was given to me of, it's like getting a pair of trainers. You buy a new pair of trainers. Now, when you pop them on, they might be for mountaineering, they might be for running, they might be for casual, they might be going through muddy puddles. You won't know until you actually use the trainers in the environment that you're using it, because you just buy a pair of trainers and you just think, oh, I don't know what I'm going to use them with today. Could be in puddles, could be in this, could be in that. And at first, when you put that shoe on, you get blisters. The blisters are there, they're showing, they hurt. You're going to feel them. But then over time, you get tougher skin. They get better. You get used to them. They get worn out a little bit, and then next thing, you're absolutely going everywhere and anywhere and everywhere to certain places. And I think that using that as a mental health point of view, you don't wear stilettos to a rocky mountain. You don't attack your mental health by not talking about it. You attack your mental health by talking about it. And I think, someone told me, God, when was it, last week? Men cry. Men get upset. Men are human. Men are perceived as this massive, alpha male. No. I don't. I'm a human. I've cried many times in my life. I think I cried last week. When it was my birthday of the week, I cried at that. And I don't really care. I'm happy to talk about that. I'm happy to say I can cry, because not because I want to, because I think sometimes you have to in certain positions that you're in. And so no, I mean, like this platform that you're doing is, I can't endorse into it as much as I can, or support it as much as I can, and I just hope that you get to speak to many people on opposite sides of the coins, like for example Harry, who's in the Navy, or me, who's just a normal human 30-year-old man who's just doing day-to-day jobs, getting a wage to a wage, having a life with a family and car and kids and house and things like that. So yeah, I'd like to see the swings and roundabouts, because if you look at the mental health of it, they are just as affected or in the same position as what I'm in. So that's what I want. That's what I want to be known. I want that expressed. I really do. It should be. We're in a day and age now where judgment isn't a thing, and I'd love that. That's all I want.
Laptop was dying. Sorry. I'm glad, and like I said, it was completely out of the blue that you reached out to me, and I was genuinely appreciative and honoured that it took 2 episodes to do that. I think I was actually a bit surprised at how quickly it came about, which is great. I guess you've obviously learned a lot on your journey with mental health and your current journey with it. Taking that experience and everything that you've sort of put into place, what would be your key sort of bits of information that you would give to someone who might have found themselves in a similar situation, or just, like you say, we're all human at the end of the day, just a different situation, but still feeling.
I think the best, obviously learning from previous experience myself, I think accepting the fact that you're not okay. Accept the fact that you're not happy. Accept the fact that you can't control certain scenarios. Accept the fact that you're not alone in the scenario. A lot of acceptability of yourself and how you feel. Don't speak, talk, cry out, shout at the top of your lungs in a random field. Take your car and drive to a location you want to go to. Don't restrict yourself because of how you feel. Just accept the fact that you're not happy. If you're not happy, just mention it. Like I know a lot of men are very stubborn, and I know a lot of women are as well. But from my perspective, you talk to your friends, and that I remember one of your podcasts, and the previous one you said, "Can I have a chat?" And that's a Debbie Downer as soon as you say the words, "Can we have a chat?" and you run through all this negativity in your mind. But me personally, if someone came up to me and says, "Can we have a chat?" I'm very optimistic. I'll just say, "Yeah, what's up?" I'd rather someone come speak to me about something than doing something they're going to regret later down the line. And like you said, you only hear about the extreme scenarios, never the early bird, just starting out kind of vibe. You always hear the extremes, and it's horrible. It's not very nice. I've known people who have unfortunately taken their life. There's a couple that I know, and it's heartbreaking, because what if they did something different? What if they reached out? What if they did something? Maybe this video that people will watch, or this podcast, that will watch, they'll hear the words that we've said and go, "Yeah, actually, I should do that." And that's something I just want to make aware. Everyone should be aware of that. I think, regardless, you could be the biggest, burliest man, or the scrawniest man, or you might be confused, you might be unhappy, or whatever. Just talk. The power of conversation goes a long way.
Yeah, I think thankfully it's coming to fruition. People are talking more, and it's a lot more open. I think Harry said his issue was not want. Harry's a talker when he gets going, but he almost didn't want to put that on someone else, and I think there's a fine balance. But like you said, arguably it's the one time that you should be selfish. Is like, I'm going to talk, and they might not be the right person, and it's just doing that. It's like trying to chat up a girl in a bar. I guess it's doing that the first time. Once you've done it once, it's a lot easier. You sort of know the outcomes. They're either going to go no, or you're going to carry on down the conversation. So I think that's a big thing for me as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I honestly really great to have this conversation with you. I would just like to, obviously you've done that a little bit there, but I would like to give you the final word on it. Anything that you felt like you've missed out, or anything that you really want to touch on. I'm giving you the mic, so to speak.
I think anybody who is watching or listening to this, just accept the fact that if you're not happy about something, to just talk about it. I think the reason why I came across this was because it was friends, and I think friends of a friend. Someone could watch this video. I could post this online. You could post this online. It could get to someone on YouTube or whatever platform it's on, socially, and it could hit someone where they would want to talk about it, and then it's that knock-on effect, like I explained earlier. Once it's hit one of those people, it hits everything around them. So I think that if that happens, that's it. you've done it. You've made it, and I think you're already doing that because that's why I'm here. Because awareness is key, and yeah, my final word: just talk to someone. Don't be afraid. It's not irregular anymore. It's common, and it happens.
Yeah, it's common, but it's still not super common. And that's
Sure, yeah,
well,
absolutely, yeah. I think it's just not common in the light that it should be. I think it's just a very, very dimmed light at the moment, and we need to switch it up and make it full, massive light show of awareness.
Awesome. Okay, well, Dan, I appreciate your time. It's been great catching up with you, and great to have this conversation with you. And yeah, I'll
yeah, amazing. Cheers, Lewis. You're a superstar. Thank you so much.